At age 14, I became involved with a 25-year-old woman who maintained relationships with multiple people, primarily for financial gain, including sugar daddies. Our relationship continued for several years, during which she would share money with me. This arrangement made me comfortable with receiving easy money, which would later prove detrimental to my development. As a teenager struggling to find my place in the world, my choices consistently led to conflicts with my parents. My father, who worked tirelessly to provide for our family, was rarely home. Though I desperately wanted a meaningful relationship with him, our interactions were primarily limited to weekly disciplinary sessions involving shouting or corporal punishment. My academic performance deteriorated significantly. In his frustration, my father repeatedly told me I wasn't an intelligent son, words that planted themselves deep in my heart like seeds, waiting to manifest their damage. While the physical punishment didn't affect me much, these words left lasting emotional scars. Passing classes became increasingly difficult, leading me to resort to bribing teachers. After ending the relationship with the older woman, I sought to maintain my lifestyle by targeting daughters from wealthy families for financial gain. When I expressed interest in pursuing a particular wealthy family's daughter, a friend suggested using spiritual means to gain influence. His proposition intrigued me, and he directed me to a witch doctor in a rural area. I gathered the required money and we visited this man in his dark dwelling. The witch doctor's ritual required specific items: candles, a particular perfume, written prayers, names of intended targets. The ceremony involved being locked naked in a dark room, reciting incantations while holding prayers in one hand and a candle in the other. This directly violated Leviticus 19:31, which warns, "Do not turn to mediums or seek out spiritists, for you will be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God." By grade 10, my academic situation had become dire. I became a subject of ridicule among both teachers and classmates. My father's words about my lack of intelligence echoed constantly in my mind, leading me to accept this false narrative about myself. To avoid humiliation, I began skipping school despite being dropped off at the gate by my father, misusing school fees for other purposes. I developed a reputation as a womanizer, pursuing relationships with multiple women in the neighborhood, often within the same families, sisters, cousins, aunts, and nieces, causing conflicts between them. My ability to manipulate women through words became my primary skill, though this was actually a manifestation of witchcraft, which at its core involves controlling others. Many people find themselves trapped in relationships dominated by controlling partners. These controlling individuals often dictate every aspect of their partner's life, from financial decisions to social interactions and personal choices. While the controlled partners may not fully comprehend the spiritual implications of their situation, these relationships often serve a darker purpose. Satan, being fundamentally focused on control, takes particular delight in such arrangements. He operates through possessive partners, effectively creating a chain of control, the evil one working through the controlling partner to influence the life of the controlled individual. This dynamic is especially dangerous because the controlled person often doesn't recognize the full extent of their bondage. The controlling partner becomes an unwitting instrument of spiritual manipulation. The pattern of control tends to escalate gradually over time. The relationship dynamics reflect and perpetuate satanic principles of dominance and submission. These possessive relationships serve as conduits through which spiritual control can be exercised over individuals, families, and even communities. The controlling partner, while perhaps unaware of their role, becomes an extension of a larger system of spiritual manipulation, furthering an agenda of bondage rather than the freedom that healthy relationships should foster. Despite my poor academic performance, I gained notoriety for my ability to manipulate relationships, leading others to seek my advice on dealing with women. This reputation, however, came at the cost of my spiritual and moral well-being. My reputation for handling relationship issues continued to grow. People increasingly sought my counsel for their relationship problems, often amazed at how easily I could provide solutions to seemingly complex situations. I became known as a mediator of sorts, frequently being called upon to speak with people's partners after heated arguments. My success rate in resolving these conflicts was remarkably high. One particular day stands out in my memory. I was sitting with friends, engaging in our usual discussions about relationships and women. One friend, clearly impressed by my abilities, remarked that I must have a special gift, noting that he had never seen anyone with my level of influence over relationship matters. Unknown to us, an elderly man had been sitting nearby, quietly listening to our conversation. Suddenly, he interrupted our discussion with words that would pierce through my conscience. Pointing directly at me, he declared, "God gave you a gift of preaching, but Satan has perverted it with your desire for power." I remained silent, but his words penetrated deep into my soul. This stranger had identified something profound: how a divine gift meant for ministry had been twisted and corrupted for worldly purposes. His observation revealed the tragic transformation of what could have been a powerful tool for God's kingdom into an instrument of manipulation and control. Every evening, our family would gather for prayer, but I began attending only to avoid getting into trouble. Deep inside, my situation reflected the words from Isaiah 29:13. And the Lord said, "Because these people draw near with their mouth and honor me with their lips, while their hearts are far from me, and their fear of me is merely human commandment learned by rote." Stay tuned for part 3.